Now about Satan embodiment. It will be necessary to proclaim about Satan embodiment, said God to me at Bakat Para in Assam by spiritual tongue on the 18th February 2014 at 20 minutes past 3 in the anti-meridian. Now the time has come to do it. Introduction. Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12 to 15. How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth. You who once laid low the nations, you said in your heart, I'll ascend to heaven, I'll raise my town above the stars of God. I'll sit in town on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of the sacred mountain. I'll ascend above the tops of the clouds. I'll make myself like the Most High, but you are brought down to the grave, to the depths of the pit. Revelation chapter 12 verse 7 to 9. And there was war in heaven, war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. It can be seen from the writings of John Mark that in Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12 to 15, that there was envy at God, the Almighty's possession. Though Isaiah's writings bear some literary declarations, it is not Archangel Michael and some other angels who acted against the said enemies of God. The enemies were thrown down to the earth by God himself. But the true identity of the leader of the repulsed angels became concealed in Revelation through the deceptive working of the spirit of Satan embodiment in John Mark. It is not that ancient serpent and his angels, but Lucifer and his angels who were thrown down to the earth. The ancient serpent had been confined in Sheol for Satan long before this war. Lucifer, the repulsed archangel, was replaced by Michael the instant the former was defiled. The war is spiritual and not a combatant one. Lucifer and his angels, namely Potipharus and Raus, and his cherub named Acne, are nothing for God to be fought against. John Mark was deceived by Satan embodiment to believe a combat had happened in the war, so as to glorify his name. No war has happened in heaven until now, and it cannot happen in heaven either. It is between heaven and earth that this war had happened. Lucifer and his angels could not enter heaven at all. The reason for the defilement of the repulsed angels with the spirit of sin is they went beyond heaven. They became disobedient when the spirit of Satan embodiment worked in them, as instantly as they were beyond heaven, because of their preference to be on earth, to being in heaven. They became completely defiled or sin embodiments, and were instantly thrown down into Sheol for Satan by God. It is because of the spirit of lust that they preferred to be on earth. But all these happenings practically took less than a fraction of a second. The repulsed angels had heard from God about Satan and his confinement in Sheol while in heaven, and they did not know how life would be like if they did not want to be in heaven. In the beginning of the creation, there was no sin on earth, but because of the serpent's disobedience, Satan was born in course of time. Number 1. The origin of Satan. The instant the serpent was successful in his attempt to defile Eve and Adam, the serpent died, rose from death into sin embodiment, and became confined in Sheol for Satan. Besides filling the whole earth with his spirit of sin, the spirit of the old serpent or Satan gradually developed into Satan's spiritual India in course of time. Satan's spiritual is roaming about India all the time, having no place to take rest, where the spirit of sin is until today, working in the unholy man, animals, plants, and in non-living things. This obedience is the origin of sin. Satan's nature of sin embodiment makes him immortal. Satan is that ancient serpent after her development into sin embodiment. On her death, explicitly speaking, it is the spirit of sin in the soul of the old serpent which developed her soul into sin embodiment. In gender, she is treated as masculine now, which called as the old serpent here. Many people till today confuse the old serpent with Lucifer. Satan or the old serpent has wings like that of a bat, deep eyes, long ears, long and pointed nose, narrow chin, legs like that of a bat, long fingernails and toenails, and is without arms. Number 2. Membership and location. Satan embodiment includes the old serpent or Satan, who deceived Eve and Adam. The repulsed angels, namely Lucifer, Protiphorus, Rose, and Oedipus cherub named Agni, and Judas Iscariot, who sold Jesus Christ for 30 silver coins. Satan's spiritual developed into the old serpent too, gradually, and for the first time he was born on the 31st March 2014 at 14 minutes past 1 in the anti-meridian. I was at Bakatpara in Assam at this time. His tone of voice resembles the ringing sound of a sound amplifier when each microphone is being adjusted for suitable amplification. He too was put instantly into Sheol when he was born. From this happening, Satan embodiment began to know the existence of Satan's spiritual. The repulsed angels did not reach the earth and became instantly confined in Sheol for Satan, where the old serpent or Satan had already been confined. The Spirit of God told me at Bakatpara in Assam on the 20th July 2014 at 43 minutes passage in the anti-meridian. That Judah Iscariot is among them. The Spirit of God told me at Bakatpara in Assam, the names of Rose and Agni, on the 8th March 2015 at 11 minutes past 4 in the Pulse Meridian, in spite of concealment of the names by them. These embodiments have been confined till today in Seoul since the times of their absolute defilement. This show for Shin embodiments is made by God at Barapatar in Assam, India. I visited the place on the evening of the 7th August 2013. Number 3. Measurement and direction of Sheol for Satan. Sheol is spherical, about 20 feet high above the earth, about 40 feet in diameter and in height, southeast of the erstwhile A Company headquarters, 3rd Indian Reserve Battalion, Mizoram. Behind a tiny tea estate which is a good 200 meters away from the said headquarters, and covers part of a narrow ground of trees. Thus Satan embodiment has no place in heaven and on earth. Sheol for Satan cannot be seen with eyes. Number 4. Oneness of Satan embodiment. The old serpent, the repulsed angels, and Judah Iscariot are spiritually one. Satan embodiment thinks and feels himself as one spiritual being, and not as several beings. Each of them thinks he was first a serpent. He deceived Eve and Adam. His spirit defiled the whole earth. He was thrown down to the earth because of being sin embodiment. He sold Jesus for 30 silver coins and crucified him, and he'll be tormented in abyss forever and ever. The oneness is practically exhibited by the collective use of a single tone or voice at a time, and their successive collective use of different tones of voice to pretend the speech of several persons. Satan embodiment is both male and female. Only attachment of history to one facial feature can distinguish each one from among them. There cannot be enmity or quarrel or envy or competition among them. Therefore, their height in sinfulness is the same on all of them. They are receiving same admonishment and will receive the same punishment when they are thrown into abyss. Serial number 5. Original tone of voice. The original tone of voice of Satan embodiment carries eternal remorse, eternal worry, eternal despair, and eternal fright, which shows their terrible doom in spite of their yet relentless sinfulness. The voice of Satan embodiment was heard at Mangaldoy in Assam on the night of the 8th August 2013. It was very big and resounded in the surrounding atmosphere as it traveled with a mixture of sharp, flat, and slow notes in undulating tone. But because God does not want me to hear it often, their voice was heard thereafter until today as the voice of a person whose tone of voice is recorded in my shell. Number 6. Rose of the Spirit of Sin. The spirit of sin has life of its own and has independent thought. It is roaring with fright and worry at the impending punishment from God. But to avoid disgrace, Satan embodiments used to cancel from my hearing this terrible roars of his spirit inside Sheol. And God also, however, does not want me to hear it, to hear it any longer. Serial number 7. The smells in Sheol. Ill smell is the ill smell of the spirit of sin. All ill smells that are in the world are also in Sheol for Satan. The evil smell of the armpit comes from the lymph nodes in the armpit. It is another one smell of the spirit of sin who works in the lymph nodes. The evil smell of the armpit is caused by Satan embodiment in the saints, whereas it is caused by the spirit of sin in the unholy. But Satan embodiment or the spirit of sin is not always successful to bring this evil smell in the saints or in the unholy. Serial number 8. Satan embodiment's memory. Satan embodiment has a weak memory of the past. As for knowledge of heaven, it is not because of weak memory, but because of the old serpent. But because the old serpent has never seen heaven, and his spiritual nature is the spiritual nature of Satan embodiment. Number 9. Movement inside Sheol. Sheol. Satan embodiment moves inside Sheol on foot, and he cannot fly with wings. Only Judah Iscariot is without wings among them in appearance. Serial number 10. Impact, touch, and tongue. The thought of the new creature, called spiritual tongue, has spiritual impact, called impact, upon Satan embodiment. In other words, its thought has spiritual impact upon Satan embodiment. The impact of the thoughts of the new creature is an impact of the Spirit of Christ, which is suffered by Satan embodiment. The thoughts of the unholy have no impact because of absence of the Spirit of Christ in them. The spirit of Satan embodiment, called defilement spirit, also has spiritual impact, called touch, upon the new creature. Touch can start in the head or in the throat or in the abdomen and spread to the abdomen or to the throat, depending upon the point of intent. It is to be noted that the spirit of sin who carries touch is always accompanied by another thought-carrying spirit of sin. There are different touches of the spirit of sin. For example, unrighteousness, sinfulness, ineligibility, and self-accusation have one and the same touch, whereas painful love and painful pity have another one and the same touch. This spreading of the spirit of sin or touch is called spiritual effect. The Spirit of Christ burns up the spirit of sin in the saints. Also, there are spiritual tongues besides that of the new creature, who is come from without into the head. The spiritual tongues of Satan embodiment have differences from those of God in origination, feeling, speed, and in manner of expression. The new creature, if he is careful and inquisitive, will not fail to distinguish them and will avoid deception. The spiritual tongue of God is the Spirit of God Himself, whereas that of Satan embodiment is the spirit of sin, as well as an imitation of God's. In tongue, the Spirit of God can work in countless ways, whereas Satan embodiment's ability has limitation. The spiritual tongue used by Satan embodiment for the deception of the prophets who died before the birth of Jesus is like the spirits of man in manner of expression. It is called tongue normal. It is called tongue normal, and is an imitation of that of God. Tongue cannot be heard with the ears of man, and is the working of the Spirit of God. Serial number 11. Eyesight of Satan embodiment. Satan embodiment does not see any branch of tree which spreads into Sheol, because he cannot see the things of the earth and the things in height with his eyes. He can see them only spiritually to the saints. Moreover, Satan embodiment cannot see parts of his body. This means sin embodiments who are one and the same in nature cannot see one another. God does upon them in this way as one punishment. Serial number 12. Satan embodiments hearing. Satan embodiment can hear the earthly sounds and the spiritual sounds in height only spiritually to the saints in their respective worlds. This stands for Satan embodiment. Number 13. Distance of the location of a saint on earth or in height does not matter for Satan embodiment to attack him. The voice of Satan embodiment can be heard from any distance as instantly as he speaks, as does the voice of a saint for him. The impact of the thought of a saint and the touch of the spirit of Satan embodiment also hold good on this locating distance. Serial number 14. Basic defilement spirits. The actual thoughts of Satan embodiment such as fright, hate, anger, enthusiasm, desire, and so on are received by the saints. These thoughts are emotional and are called emotional spirits, but only one may also be received by a saint if God wants to be shown for him. The actual thoughts of unemotional ones such as worry, longing, despair, remorse, and so on are not received by the saints, except for a person with spiritual ear. These thoughts are called unemotional spirits. Sinus also falls under unemotional spirits because Satan embodiment has no sinus. The emotional spirits and the unemotional spirits can be intentionally sent by Satan embodiment without feeling them to defile a person with spiritual ear. The actual thoughts of emotional ones also are intentional because Satan embodiment can stop them from going out. Many defilement spirits have roots, and many others have components. Some of them will be exposed here for examples: unrighteousness, self-accusation, guilt, disqualification, ineligibility, and sinfulness are the working of the spirit of fall. Selfishness is the working of the spirit of covetousness and that of the spirit of bad admission. Forgetfulness, vagueness, and madness are the working of the spirit of foolishness, wrong self-confidence, self-admiration, wrong self-assertion, and wrong self-esteem are the working of the spirit of pride. Wrong belief, wrong approval, wrong agreement, and wrong acceptance are the working of the spirit of wrong admission. Suspicion, doubt, and disbelief are the working of the spirit of hopelessness. Pride is the working of the spirit of hopelessness, foolishness, and of fault. Slackness, laziness, and easygoingness are the working of the spirit of inactiveness. Serial number 15. Working manner. Only the saints are attacked by Satan embodiment from Sheol, whereas the unholy are possessed by the spirit of sin. Satan embodiment can deal the saints by learning their thoughts, but he does not know the languages of man. The thought or spiritual tongue of an Englishman is similar to that of a German. One similar thing occupies the mind of each. Again, a long sentence in speaking can be just a single tongue which precedes speaking. Thought or spiritual tongue is very short and quick. Moreover, for example, evil thoughts such as unrighteousness, shamefulness, ineligibility, and self-accusation, when they are received, are one and the same in touch. This touch is carried by one spirit of sin. It is named by the thoughts carried by each, accompanying another spirit of sin. Thus, by virtue of frequency of similarity of spiritual tongues, richness of tongue in linguistic meaning, the high speed of tongue, and the spiritual equivalence of more words in any language, Satan embodiment can deal several saints in a short period of time. But God knows and can do everything without this. As for the old self, which carries past thoughts, past deeds, and past experience of bad ones, Satan embodiment knows it very well, as it was transferred to him on one's rebirth. The old self can be read by Satan embodiment by feeling himself, and he uses it to attack a saint. The unholy do not have old self or new self. They do not have impact because of absence of the Spirit of Christ in them. Therefore, Satan embodiment cannot recognize the unholy, nor does he can read their minds. He can locate them only to the saints, but cannot employ nor attack them. Satan spiritual can recognize, locate, and learn the minds of the unholy by feeling the working of the spirit of sin in the unholy, but only one at a time. Satan spiritual sometimes fails to change the working manner of the spirit of sin in the unholy because of several reasons. Again, the spirit of sin works in various ways in different unholy men. Satan spiritual cannot know details of how the spirit of sin works in different unholy men without feeling the working of the spirit of sin in the unholy one after another. Satan embodiment and Satan spiritual cannot communicate with each other but can work together against the saints because Satan spiritual can recognize, locate, and attack the saints to the unholy. Serial number 16. Witchcraft. All knowledges obtained by palmistry, sorcery, witchcraft, and witchcraft are a mixture of lies and truth. But there are few people in the world from whom correct knowledge can be obtained by these satanic arts. These people are specially employed by Satan spiritual and not by Satan embodiment. The magic of turning staffs into snakes performed by the wise men and sorcerers of Pharaoh in Exodus chapter 7 verse 11 to 12 was the working of Satan embodiment and Satan spiritual. All the onlookers and the sorcerers themselves were given moving images of snake by Satan spiritual, whereas those seen by Moses and Aaron at this time were given by Satan embodiment. The working of Satan spiritual in the unholy is special and particular. Satan embodiment and Satan spiritual work together here. In giving of moving images, Satan embodiment or Satan spiritual continuously release the spirit of sin to perpetuate sight. Two spirits of sin work together in this magic. One image carrying spirit and one thought of movement carrying spirit. The ability of the spirit of sin alone and that of Satan spiritual in the unholy are not the same. The former can give only image when one is awake, whereas the latter can give image, thought of movement, and spiritual sound when one is awake. 17. Dreams. Ordinary dreams while one is sleeping is given by the spirit of sin in the unholy, whereas a special dream got by an important person of unholy one is given by Satan spiritual, but images, moving or moveless, and dreams got by the saints are all given from Sheol. God never gives dreams. The thought of man is vague during sleep. God never tells his men any important thing during this period of vagueness, but while they are awake. The running away of Joseph and his pregnant wife Mary, seen in Matthew chapter 2, verse 13, was the result of God's message to Joseph while he was awake. Interpretation of dreams is the same as palmistry, sorcery, and as witchcraft. It is against the will of God. Joseph, Daniel, and Daniel were not given interpretation of dreams as seen in the Bible. These are false stories. Animals also have dreams because they have shells. The saints and the unholy are often disturbed by Satan spiritual, who often works in animals. Animals live by knowledge, which is recorded in the minds of their shells. This knowledge is given by God, but they cannot use conscience. They cannot use conscience and reasoning meaningfully because of the working of the spirit of foolishness in them. I repeat. But they cannot use conscience and reasoning meaningfully because of the working of the spirit of foolishness in them. Number 17. Demons, furies, and ghosts. Demons, furies, and ghosts that seems external can be the working of the spirit of sin alone, or Satan spiritual, or of Satan embodiment. Those given by the spirit of sin alone cannot speak or move. Those given by Satan spiritual or Satan embodiment will move even if they do not emit sound, or will emit sound even if they do not move. It may also be sound only if the image speaks and moves. A thought of movement given by one spirit, a certain tone of voice in the soul of the hearer, relieved by one spirit, and spiritual words to match the relief, and spiritual words to match the relief tone of voice sent by another one spirit are combined together. But this is an easy task and just a matter of less than a second for Satan embodiment or for Satan spiritual. The cry or speech of someone as if heard in the forest or as if heard in a house in the dark at night time can be the working of Satan embodiment or Satan spiritual. Jesus in his lifetime on earth warded off demons or the spirits of sin from several persons. Demons are not external but internal, but they may seem external sometimes. Only those that seem external can disturb the saints. In Joshua chapter 5 verse 13, Joshua was given a vision by Satan embodiment In the Acts chapter 10 verse 9 to 13, Peter the apostle was given vision, and I myself also was given vision at Bukiel in Assam. On the night of the 4th August 2013, Patiphar's image, who acted as God the Almighty, helped me to live steadfastly, like a great stone that cannot even be moved. Rose and Agnes images acted as God's messengers. Rose and Agnes images acted as God's messengers. Lucifer's image, who acted as the archangel, promised me 2 rows that I would live with the archangel. They tried to deceive me in this way. The images bore the 2 facial features of the repulsed angels. Serial number 18, Satan Embodiment. Satan Embodiment can continuously release spiritual words or thoughts to match actual sound which is being heard by a person. The sound may be that of a flying aeroplane or of a running motor vehicle. In this way, a person with spiritual ear can hear the intended voice. The voice goes away or comes closer along with the motor vehicle as it moves. But a person without spiritual ear cannot hear this voice. Serial number 19. Knowledge of a person's destination. Satan embodiment does not foresee the after-death destination of man, except that of a saint. But he can know it when an unholy man forsakes his life at the time of death. He cannot know in any way the after-death destination of a person who goes into Hades or into hell. This is because a soul who goes into hell has no impact, and a soul who goes into Hades is partially defiled and partially sanctified. Incomplete knowledge can make a person partially defiled and partially sanctified, even under devotion of life to God. Serial number 20, Bounds of Satan's authority in man. In the saints, Satan embodiment, Satan's spiritual and the spirit of sin have no authority, but the saints can be disturbed by the spirit of Satan embodiment, which is perpetually bound up by the spirit of Christ in them. Satan's spiritual and the spirit of sin also can disturb the saints by the unholy. Satan embodiment can never kill a saint, but can cause a fall in faith. In the unholy, the spirit of sin remains permanently, even when it fails to control them in some ways. In short, they are possessed by the spirit of sin. It is only knowledge and determination which fail the working of the spirit of sin in the unholy. But in the absence of knowledge and determination, the spirit of sin is always successful. Further, even in the presence of knowledge, the spirit of sin can be successful when there is not enough determination in them. 21. Sex in Sheol. Indulgence in sexual pleasure is a regular doing in Sheol. Satan embodiment is bringing irrecoverable ruin to himself by sexual intercourse. Because sin embodiments have one and the same nature. The method of sexual intercourse in their act goes like coordination of different parts of a single body. Serial number 22. Great envy in sin. Besides envy at the possession of God the Almighty, Satan embodiment, Satan spiritual, and the spirit of sin have great envy at every details of the life of man on earth. This is exhibited in all sufferings on earth, spiritual or physical, great or little, and severe or trivial. One assigned has a delicious food to eat. Satan embodiment out of envy often attempts to give him a spirit of abhorrence. And when a saint takes a nutritious food, Satan embodiment out of envy often attempts to gain his physical strength with the spirit of lust. The spirit of sin also works in the same way in the unholy. Events called as natural events such as earthquake, volcano, fissure, tide, heavy rain, hail, storm, lightning, landslide, flood, glacier, cold, drought, and heat are directly caused by God. We suffer through these events because of unholiness, and unholiness is the spirit of sin. God's man never suffered through these events in body, even if suffered materially. Number 23. Admonishment and punishment of Satan embodiment. The thoughts of the new creature called spiritual tank has spiritual impact called impact upon Satan embodiment. This impact punishes Satan embodiment and is the working of the Spirit of Christ. Moreover, God regularly admonishes Satan embodiment to the soul of a saint. His spirit travels from the abdomen to both feet. It can be felt under the left foot and the right foot alternately, like a heavy hammering downwards to the ground. God made me feel this regular admonishment of Satan embodiment by His Spirit at Bakat Para in Assam in the month of March 2014. Satan embodiment imitated this but failed to deceive me in any way. The old selves of man, which are with Satan embodiment will heighten his punishment in abyss forever and ever. The daily burning up of the spirit of sin by the Spirit of Christ in the saints, on earth and in heights, punishes Satan embodiment every day. The defilement spirit of sin sent by Satan embodiment in his attempt to defile the saints is recorded in him for meting out his punishment in abyss. Moreover, God admonishes Satan embodiment also directly, and not only to the souls of the saints, as and when he deems it necessary. Satan embodiment commits sin relentlessly, which is heightening his impending punishment in spite of regular admonishment given by God for its commission of sin. This is poorly because of his enormous wickedness and the unseverity of admonishment. His spiritual nature of being sin might not be a true justification for his perpetual commission of sin. Just before rapture, Satan embodiment will be thrown into abyss to suffer punishment forever and ever. Number 24. The third old serpent. After rapture, the second Satan's spiritual will gradually develop into the third old serpent, who will be put into shell for Satan. He'll play the role of Satan embodiment against the saints. On the last day, the third old serpent will be thrown into abyss to join the other members of Satan's embodiment to suffer punishment with them forever and ever. After the last day, the third Satan's spiritual will gradually develop into the fourth old serpent and will be put into show for Satan. He'll attack the saints who will be seen only in heights, because there will be no man on earth after the last day. Conclusion. The souls in heights will undergo trial until completion of trial period for them. The instant height has no soul who undergoes trial in it. The fourth old serpent will have no sinful work to do, and he will be thrown into abyss to suffer punishment with another members of Satan's embodiment forever and ever. Hell shall for Satan, and heights will then no longer exist.